We're keeping the technical talks going. Please welcome from Parity, a core developer, my new friend, Cisco.
Hello.
Buenos Aires.
There we go.
There you go.
Thanks. Can you hear me? Good? Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Cisco from Parity. Thank you, Evan. I hope you're having a wonderful time here at Sub0, having some nice talks. We're on a series of very good talks about the hub, which is something, if you want to develop on the Polkadot ecosystem, is something you will want to know. So I'm going to be talking about building across Polkadot, how to leverage the cloud and the hub. Because we're talking a lot about the hub, there's another aspect of Polkadot that you might not know with this name, but you might want to know, which is the cloud. And I'll present it to you, and I'll present to you how those two merge and work together. So let's go. So this is, in summary, like the architecture of Polkadot, kinda. So you have, Polkadot was built as this blockchain of blockchains, or network of networks, where we have the base layer down at the bottom, the relay chain, and then a lot of rollups at the top. Originally called parachains, you can call them however you want. They are kind of like native rollups in the Ethereum ecosystem, but they are heterogeneous, so they can be whatever they want. They are not just EVM chains. They can have any kind of functionality. They can even have their own specialties. So the hub, as you see here, is a system chain that runs on Polkadot that has a bunch of stuff that you probably have heard of before, and a lot more that you will hear from Torsten, our next speaker. It has all the assets, like a lot of assets, like USDC, USDT. It has integrations with centralized exchanges, so everything you might want, staking, governance, and also Ethereum-compatible smart contracts. Also, you can write Inc as well, anything that compiles to PVM, which is the RISC-V virtual machine. So the rest that is not the hub, we call it the cloud. So the cloud is this collection of rollups that various teams have built over the years, that each one is specialized in something. Someone mentioned like Unique is specialized in NFTs, and then Crust in storage. And if you want to come to Polkadot to build a rollup, what would be like an L2 on Ethereum, then we have a framework to build that. You can use the POP CLI to spin your own rollup, and you can join the cloud. But then if you just want to tinker, you just want to do smart contracts, you want to do things really fast, you go to the hub. So, but how do these two things play together? How do these two things play together? So what I'm going to show you in this talk is how to, when you're building smart contracts on the hub, how to use all of this infrastructure that we've built over the years, that various teams have built over the years. So the main thing in order to access the cloud from the hub is XCM. XCM stands for cross-consensus messaging. You can just know it as cross-chain messaging. And it's the native cross-chain tool that we have on Polkadot. Here you see the hub, and all these little rotated squares are smart contracts. So let's say you build smart contracts on the hub. These other circles are other rollups on the cloud. They can send messages to other rollups to use their functionality. It might be NFTs or storage or whatever else may be. So what can we do with it? We can do cross-chain transfers. So if you have a smart contract on the hub, you can do a transfer and send it to Moonbeam, for example, or to any other chain on Polkadot. You have swaps. You can do cross-chain swaps. If there's a DEX chain, like hydration, which we heard about yesterday, you don't have to have your own DEX. You can move stuff to the other rollup, do the swap, and then come back. Or we can also even do arbitrary cross-chain execution. So whatever you might want from the other chain, you can just send a message to it and execute it there. So let's go through each one. Cross-chain transfer. So here I have a circle depicting the hub, a little smart contract inside. And then the smart contract, let's say you have some DeFi protocol that you built on a smart contract, some lending platform, some lottery, whatever it might be. And maybe it's a lottery, and maybe you want to pay a beneficiary on another chain. Well, you can very easily, natively send a message to that other chain. It's one of the things that we provide on the hub with XCM. And this is doable. We're building like middleware on top, or like libraries for your smart contracts. So this can be doable in very few lines of code. And you can send a myriad of tokens. It can be USDC, USDT, DOT, of course. Any Polkadot rollup token like Myth, Glimmer, HDX, or even ETH and Ethereum ERC20s, since we have bridges to Ethereum, like Snowbridge and Hyperbridge. Another thing that you can do is cross-chain swaps. So let's say you build a contract on the hub and you want users to be able to swap things around. Of course, you might have other contracts on the hub that provide this functionality, that have, for example, you might have Uniswap deployed on the hub. But maybe you want other tokens that are not there, or you want some other mechanisms that are not there. So you can send it over to, for example, Hydration, a DEX chain, or any other DEX chain. Here we have an example where you send DOT, you do the swap, and then ETH comes back, for example. Right? And you can do it with any token that we have. These are first-class citizens of what you can do. And they are standardized. So both transfers and swaps are standardized. So no matter which chain it is, it's easy to configure it. So you can do transfers and swaps to it. Then the execution is like an escape hatch. Is like you can do whatever you want, but it's harder to work with, because now you need to know, for example, the actual call data on the other side. So both with transfers and swaps, you don't need to know anything about the other chain. But here you might need to know what the call data is on the other chain. So you might need to fumble around and know a little bit about the internals of the other chain. But with this, you can do whatever you want. And over time, this XCM will evolve to support other actions in a more standardized way, like voting or staking or other things that you might want to do. Good, so as I showed in the swaps example, actually, the XCM in smart contracts shines because you can compose these actions together. So you can compose these transfers, these swaps, these executions. In this case, we have an example where a contract on the hub can maybe send a message to withdraw liquidity from a protocol. So this would be an example of cross-chain execution. And then on that same message, you can forward another message to another rollup. So the user signs once. They don't need to sign like a million times. They just sign once. And then the machinery of Polkadot sends a message to one chain, does what it needs to do, sends a message to another chain, probably with a transfer, then does what it needs to do. Here we do a swap, and then comes back to the same contract and just deposits the funds that you want. So you can compose all these things to do things like, it doesn't matter where your tokens are. You can route them all to one place, because you can easily make the user sign once, and then it will take longer, of course. But you could send a message to all the chains where the user has the funds, and gather those funds and take them onward on their journey, and then you can put them to work wherever they need to be in the whole of the cloud. So this is a kind of complicated example. You can come up with other things as well. And these are all the first-class citizens. Next steps is we're going to integrate things like cross-chain queries, because for smart contracts, it's not only important that you can send funds to another rollup, or do swaps, or maybe even execute code. It's also important to read state from another rollup. For example, you might query the exchange rate from a DEX chain so that you don't have to do it yourself. And for this, I've seen proposals come up for integrating ISMP from Hyperbridge into the hub, or PVQ from Akala into the hub, which are both mechanisms to query state. And via state proofs, be able to verify that what you queried from another chain is OK. This that I've talked about So when we talk about the hub, we're talking about a hybrid chain, which is a concept that I really liked from a blog post by Rob Habermeyer, one of the ex-Parity employees, founders of Polkadot, where you have chains that only have smart contracts, like some chains they're just a smart contract platform and don't have a lot of things unique to them. Some chains have a lot of specialized logic, like a DEX chain that is fully built for DeFi. But then they have no generalization, no way to programmatically access those things and build on top of it. So a hybrid chain has both a lot of native functionality, like a lot of the chains you'll see on Polkadot, but it also has smart contracts so that users can permissionlessly toy around with the primitives that the chain gives them. So for example, in the hub, you have staking and governance, which are built into the chain, and they're hard to upgrade and change, but anyone can build a smart contract that interacts with them and can, for example, create a DAO that then participates in governance, or create a pool that then participates in staking. And the hub doesn't have to be the only chain that is a hybrid chain. I imagine in the future, there are already other Polkadot chains that do this. For example, Moonbeam has a lot of precompiles that expose native functionality to smart contracts. I would imagine in the future, a lot of chains would have contracts, and then deploying cross-chain apps just becomes a matter of deploying a contract, of developing two contracts in Solidity or Ink or whatever language you might want, and then you deploy one on the hub, and you deploy the other one on your SCP or smart contract platform of choice, and then just call them with this cross-chain execution that we can do. So then whenever you just want to build a cross-chain app on Polkadot, you can just develop the two sides of it, deploy them, and have them call each other. And then last but not least, you can use bridges that we have available, and we also have them in the hub, such as Snowbridge, to send messages to Ethereum. So then if you want to make a cross-chain application that uses both Polkadot and Ethereum, you can deploy two smart contracts on Solidity and put them one on Ethereum, one on Polkadot, and then have them communicate with each other. Maybe you need the liquidity from Ethereum, so you use that, but you want some extra performance from the PVM, or you want some other thing that you get from the Polkadot ecosystem, you can join the two together and deploy on both of them. We have other bridges like Hyperbridge, which lets you communicate to Ethereum L2s. So for example, you could do the same thing on Base or Polygon or whatever. So really, we want the flexibility of being able to build wherever you want with smart contracts. Then one last topic that is not quite tied to this cross-chain communication, but is another way that you can leverage the cloud from the hub, is something that we can do, not unique, but I think it works really well on Polkadot. It's something that I like to call an enshrined contract, but I don't think I've seen this name anywhere. But let's say you don't want cross-chain communication, but you want more throughput, right? You start your contract. The hub is great for tinkerers. So the hub is great for starting out, building something very easy, getting a few users. But then maybe you get a lot of users, and now you're competing with all these other contracts for the same block space. Now, we have a lot of block space with elastic scaling. That is something that I did not talk about. But we want to get the hub to 2-second block times, 500 millisecond block times with a lot of throughput. But still, you might want your own personal rollup for these things. In Ethereum, much as we see with, for example, Uniswap and the Unichain, it is a path to scalability, to start with a smart contract and then move it to an L2 or to your own blockchain. This, however, is usually very complex. It's very hard to be a blockchain engineer more than a smart contract engineer. So let's say you have all these contracts on the hub and you want to upgrade because you have a lot of users. On Polkadot, you can use stuff like the POP CLI that was mentioned previously to easily, from a template, launch a chain. And you don't have to be like a blockchain hardcore engineer for this, you just use one of the templates, one that preferably has smart contracts. And then you just put your smart contract there. You don't need to build like specific native functionality. You could just have smart contracts, but only allow your contract and give it all of the block space. And because all of the chains on Polkadot run in parallel, you get like full throughput. You get all of the block space for yourself. Of course, you can't just move it, like destroy it from one side and put it on the other side, because there's backwards compatibility and users and so on. But this is a very good way of, for example, moving to the Uniswap Unichain scenario, right? Once you grow popular, you go to an L2. And once you're there, you might want to add some more customizations and so on, and have your own Polkadot rollup, knowing that you can always send messages to the rest of the Polkadot cloud and also the hub. So in summary, and this is the complicated, the big picture from the thing that we saw at the start, you have the relay chain on the bottom, this cores that provide the execution to these rollups. You have all of these rollups, but now you see that the hub has a lot of smart contracts that they're sending messages around, sending liquidity, executing smart contracts on other chains. Some chains you are tapping into their native functionality. Some chains you are communicating to smart contracts that you yourself might have deployed. And you can even send stuff to Ethereum. So this image is my simplified version of showing what Polkadot in 2025 looks like, and it will look more and more connected over the years. But this is like the vision of a multi-chain future that we have always wanted to develop. So with all of this knowledge and all of the tools that Dan showed, like the POP CLI and the same things that you'll see about the hub on the next talk, the question is, what will you build? And I'm excited for what you will build. And that's it. Thank you for coming.
And thank you very much, Cisco. We do have time for a couple of questions. If you have a question for Cisco, you can raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone around, and everyone all around the world will hear you. I promise it's not painful. I do it every day.
Oh, question.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Here we are. Would you pass this microphone to that gentleman back there? Thank you.
What, sorry, can you put it closer?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. So my question would be on the topic of issuing contracts.
Yep.
How would you imagine the situation with fees? Because still fees need to be paid on the other chain. So would it be nice maybe to have a way of, I don't know, have some kind of paymaster or something that withdraw the fees from the asset or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a very good question. I didn't mention, like, there are many considerations when you move from, when you create your own chain, right? One of them is fees, like on which token do you pay fees and so on. One of the things that the hub gives you that is very good is that you can pay fees on any asset that has a liquidity pool with DOT, which is the native token of the asset hub. So if your fees are getting paid in DOT or in anything else, you could make a chain where they are paid in the same currency, and it's easy to like choose which one, and then like seed it from a treasury you might have on the other chain, or just the users, they don't need to be confused on which fee to use. And then you can make systems where you have like where you send fees from one chain to the other. It will never be like I work on one chain and I instantly pay from another chain, because there's latency to communication between two chains. But you can definitely, once you do the move, encourage people, give them a button on a UI to move a little bit of their funds to the new chain, or to move whatever they want, and then they have a pot to pay fees with.